On September the 11th, 2001, the fire department of New York faced the largest rescue mission in their history.
When I saw the engulfed inferno that was going on up there, I said, oh my God, I don't know what we got here.
My first words were, holy we're gonna die.
I remember saying, this can't be happening. This can't be real.
On 9/11, 343 firefighters were killed, the biggest loss of life of any emergency service in the world in a single day.
There was 12 of us that responded. I was the only one to make it back.
The firefighters work as a close-knit family.
You knew some of these people for 20 years, and they were your brothers.
This brotherhood is part of the unique culture of the fire department of New York. They have a proud history of aggressively attacking fires in order to rescue people. Their culture and their tactics mean they save lives. But the firefighters pay a heavy price, and never more so than on 9/11.
We're not turning around, we're not stopping and running, which I didn't want to do, but every inch of your body is telling you to do it. You know, like, man.
Now some speaking for the first time. These men who were heralded as heroes tell their story. The fire department of New York is one of the biggest and busiest fire departments in the world. They pride themselves on how they tackle fires and rescue people, whatever the cost.
New York City Fire Department is a very aggressive fire department. We attack the fires from the inside.
We don't break a window and stick a hose line in there from the street and put water on the fire. Because if you do that, you're pushing the fire throughout the rest of the building. You aggressively go into the seat of the fire and push the fire out the building. But to do that, you gotta be in the building.
We're able to cut a path through the fire, rescue the person, and get them out.
The skyscraper city of New York presents exceptional challenges. And while the firemen risk their lives together, they also work, sleep, cook, and eat together.
When you walk into a firehouse, I was reborn again because I felt the electric going through me, how everybody works together, how we go shopping together, we go clean the truck together, and then we're down the hall where we put our life on the line.
You're going into life and death situations with them, and you depended on them and they depended on you.
The firefighters form a vast but intimate clan, often passing from father to son down the generations. John Vigiano Sr. is one of the most decorated and respected firefighters alive. When he got throat cancer, his son, John Jr., gave up his dreams of becoming a high-flying businessman.
He saw the brotherhood in the fire department. He saw how men gave their time every day to take care of my wife and I. He gave all those dreams of his away to become a firefighter. Just, I want to be like you. Wow.
His other son, Joe, became a highly decorated policeman. On 9/11, both brothers, one policeman, one fireman, would each rush to the towers. By chance, that day, Chief Pfeiffer was being followed by a film crew.
The morning of 9/11, we were having breakfast in the firehouse, and we got a run for a gas leak. The fire trucks went out, lights and sirens, and we went to Church Street and Lispinard, and for a gas leak in the street. Then at 8:46 in the morning, we heard this loud roar of a plane. We saw it pass by us to the west and then dip behind the buildings. When it came out, I saw the plane aim and crash into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. And we at that moment we were going to the biggest fire of our lives.
Chief Pfeiffer calls in the first alarm, and within minutes, as the scale of the devastation becomes clear, the alarm starts to ripple out across the whole of New York. Over the next hour, over a third of all the fire crews in New York would descend on the Twin Towers.
Engine 1 out, World Trade Center, 1060. Send every available ambulance, everything you got to World Trade Center now.
American Airlines Flight 11 is flown into floors 93 to 99 of the North Tower, instantaneously killing everyone on board and many office workers on those floors. The impact slices through the 3 stairways, leaving them blocked by rubble and fire. 10,000 gallons of jet fuel ignite and course down the elevator shafts, blasting nearly all of them out of action. It's estimated that there are over 14,000 people in the buildings. Marvin Pickram originally trained with the elite Navy SEALs, but is now working as a trader on the 85th floor, just 8 stories below where the plane hits.
Fire was filling up the hallway, and I went into a panic. You know, just I remember feeling the intensity of the flames, and I just was trying to get as far away from the fire as possible. So I ran to the other end of the hallway. I kind of felt like a mouse in a trap.
He manages to find his way to the stairs, and along with thousands of others, begins a long descent. The alarm comes at a moment when the fire crews are changing shifts. Many firefighters who should be going off duty stay on and rush to the towers, deciding they cannot leave their brothers. Among those to respond is the crew of Engine 216, based in Brooklyn, including Tony Sansevero with his best friend, Danny Sure.
Was flying through these skinny streets, and I remember we're popping mirrors off of cars, like bing, 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 bing. And the one thing I remember now, at this point, we get jammed up, boom, the door flies open, Danny's off the rig. You know, he's like running down the street, like throwing, like literally moving cars, get over it, get over it. Now he's running ahead of the rig. He's just getting us through traffic, and I'm telling you, we squeezed through that.
Engine 216 take huge pride in their speed and aggression when attacking fires. This is nothing new or unique. This is part of the tradition and history of the fire department of New York, dating back to the days when the firemen formed roving, brawling gangs who fought fires and anyone else who stood in their way.
The aggressive tactics that you see at any fire in New York can be traced all the way back to the gangs of New York, to the 1840s, to the 1850s, where these volunteer fire companies risked their lives to rescue their neighbors. And that's where it begins. And the training and the tactics and the courage all flow from those days.
These early gangs raced to fires to earn the honor of being the first ones to put them out. That tradition still continues today.
I remember being in Manhattan, and there was apartments, and we used to race the other company up the stairs. They'd take one stairway, we'd take the other, and it was a race who was going to come out first, and that's part of the company, you know.
But on 9/11, these traditions lead to both tragedy and heroism on an unparalleled new scale.
I knew we weren't putting that out. I was like, we can't put that out. And my first words were, holy we're gonna die.
Just 4 minutes after the plane hits, Chief Pfeiffer arrives at the North Tower lobby and sets up his command post. His role is to marshal the firefighters that will soon come flooding in. The fire is too big and too high to put out. Their mission is to find and evacuate the civilians. But with the lifts out of action, reaching the impact zone would take nearly 2 hours of relentless climbing.
As the firefighters came into the building, they had this look on their face of concern. It wasn't panic. It was a quiet look that this was going to be a tough job. And one of the lieutenants that came in, I can remember coming up to me with that same look of concern and wondering if we're going to be okay. I told this lieutenant that I wanted him to go up to the 70th floor and to take his firefighters with them to evacuate and to rescue. Stood for a second and we looked at each other, wondering if everything was going to be okay. And then he turned around and took his men upstairs. And that was the last time I saw my brother, Kevin.
The firefighters are already facing the biggest emergency of their lives. Then a second plane is spotted.
Out of the corner of my eye, I catch a plane coming down the Hudson River. And I keep an eye on the plane, and I watch it circle around the Statue of Liberty. And I watch it drive right into that South Tower.
The fires in the two impact zones are burning as hot as industrial furnaces, forcing some stranded people to jump. Down below, the firefighters still pour in. Their first casualty will come in the most tragic and unexpected way. Fire crews from across New York are converging on the World Trade Center. They are facing the largest rescue mission in American history. But first, they have to get into the towers. They arrive at a scene of devastation. Remains of passengers and office workers have been blasted blocks away.
It's sheer hell, you know, there's just bodies, body parts. It's not bodies, there's just pieces, like hands. You know, I remember seeing a hand with a ring on it, and, you know, luggage and big piece of metal.
As I went up West Street, there was body parts everywhere. And I remember I was the only vehicle on the road. And I remember trying to drive around them. And it became impossible. I said, please forgive me. As I drove over some. It was my only way to respond.
And I remember just saying to Danny, you know, what do you think, you know? And he's like, this is gonna be the worst day of our lives. That's not what you want to hear from Danny, sir. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, oh, you know, we're not turning around. Danny's not gonna, you know, we're not stopping and running, which I didn't want to do, but every inch of your body is telling you to do it, you know, like, man.
Within minutes of the impact, the intense smoke and searing heat from the fires forced people to start jumping from the towers.
And at that point, someone's like, holy shit, look at him jumping, you know? So I remember I look up and I just see people, you know, they're coming out. It felt like it was raining people when I looked, you know, and I clearly remember like seeing two people coming out holding hands.
It wasn't like they jumped. Someone just stepped out, like they were going to step onto a cloud or something.
In this middle of this hell, for me, it's just serenely quiet, like almost peace, like papers are coming down and they're like floating.
He had a brown suit on. He had brown curly hair. When I got to him, he was in a circle probably about 8 feet in diameter. And everything that used to be inside of him was now outside of him. That's one of the things that you don't just experience that and you let go of it. It doesn't just go away. I can see that picture in my head right now.
Tony, his close friend Danny Suhr, and the rest of Engine 216 are making their way to the South Tower. The bodies are falling on the other side of the road, but one suddenly veers towards them.
So as we're walking, you know, I just hear this whistle come in like a bomb. You know, I see, you know, the body come flying by, and it tags him in the head. I think just the foot caught him, and I remember watching Danny fall back, and I remember, you know, as this person came in and hit, they crashed into a Volkswagen. There was a Volkswagen parked in the corner, it exploded. You know, the person exploded. You know, and so everyone's down, our shit's everywhere now, you know, now we're just laying, you know, just gross stuff, you know, like just, so I remember just looking up, and I'm like, Danny. To see him go down was like, oh my God, you know, like, this guy can't die. You know, it's Danny Suhr. He's captain of the football team. He's the guy who does everything. He's in charge of every party in the firehouse. You know, he's the pride of the engine. You know, he's what holds us together in the engine. You know, this can't be happening.
The glancing impact of the falling body was enough to kill Danny Suhr, the first firefighter to be killed that day. The fire department set up a series of command posts and staging areas to control the flow of firefighters into the building. Each unit is held in place till it's dispatched to a particular floor or role.
It was pretty hectic. The guy running the command post would turn around and say, I need 2 engines, and the next 2 up would go. And that was weird, looking at the faces of the guys, you know, because as they were crossing the street, that was a little bit unusual, because they just had that distant look, and some of them had that distant look in their eyes. They said, okay, we're going in.
The plan is to reach the impact zone and try to cut a path through the fires to allow trapped civilians to escape. The same aggressive tactics that have been used for over 150 years. As hundreds of civilians pour out, Battalion Chief Oriel Palmer leads the charge into the South Tower. He's an avid marathon runner who also trained as a lift technician. He manages to repair one of the lifts and gets it up to the 40th floor. But he still faces over 30 floors of relentless climbing.
I can't explain it. If he was around, you knew the situation was going to be in control. And I just thought that, not that he was above, you know, being hurt or above being killed. I guess I had a lot of faith in him.
We're going to have to host it. I'm on 69 now, so we need a higher bank, please. These stairway walls have been compromised on 73 and 74. The walls are breached, so be careful.
Following behind are the 5 rescue companies of New York. These are the elite units of the fire department, men with extra training, skills, or experience. They come in from all 5 boroughs of New York. Rushing in from the Bronx is Rescue 3. Among them is Tommy Foley. His brother Danny is also a firefighter and is now with Rescue 3. This is the first time he has ever spoken on camera.
He was someone I looked up to, you know, my whole life. We got along great. We were best friends. The best years of my life.
Tommy Foley was one of the most promising young firefighters in New York. He'd made a name for himself and his unit with a string of high-profile, daring rescues. He loved rodeo riding and had been named by People magazine as one of America's 100 most eligible bachelors. On 9/11, he's making his way up the South Tower.
I just have in my mind that he was helping people. He was talking positively to people. He was probably smiling and saying, you know, it's going to be okay. You know, we'll be okay. You know, you'll get down and it'll be fine.
Fueled by the desire to rescue lives, some firemen don't even check in with the command posts. The chiefs struggle to keep track of their own men.
325, 261, 260.
Other crews come without even being called.
We responded, and then we got the run as we were responding, which Many companies did, and some companies responded and they never got the official notification. But we responded just because we knew we were going to be needed.
Now my son has my genes. I drove a fire truck. I put myself in that seat and I would have said to the captain, Cap, we're going to sit here all day waiting for these idiots. We know where they have to go. Say the word.
Both John's sons are now in the towers. Police Detective Joe in the North Tower and Fireman John in the South Tower. Marvin Pickram is in the North Tower. As he makes it down past the 50th floor, he starts to see the first firefighters coming up.
Those guys were angels that day. And they just came in and they're just doing their job. I mean, we don't know what's going on. And they're just, bam, coming through. You know, and that's making sure that we were on our way to safety, doing what they could, heading up the tower as it's burning to try to help people get out. And I just amazing respect for those guys.
Oreo Palmer and one colleague reach the impact zone in the South Tower.
I don't think that he or any of them thought that building was going to collapse.
We got two. I saw the pockets of fire. We should be able to knock it down with 2 lines. Right go to 78th floor. Numerous 1045 code lines. 478. That's all here. Numerous civilians. There's 2 engines up there. All right, 10-4, we're on our way.
Just minutes after this transmission, the unimaginable happens. The South Tower, the second tower to be struck, is the first to collapse, just 56 minutes after the plane hit it.